In programming, we have functions, which are a set of instructions that perform a block of code for a specific purpose. They're like phases of a recipe. For example, a step of function to mix, one to bake, and one to enjoy. All the steps that you take to enjoy some bread. We can define functions and then call them by their names, like how we do the console log function. So, we can also write our own. To define them in JavaScript, we write in order the word function, a descriptive name, and none or more inputs. And we have curly brackets, and inside the curly brackets, a block of code that can run. In my example here, we just have one return statement, but we can write things before as well. This means that we also have an output, which is written by return, and whatever to the right is what it returns from the function when we call it. That means your function might return something to where it's called. For example, your inputs might be 3 milks, 2 sugars, 1 egg, and 3 wheats, and your output might be a cake. So once we define this function, it means we can call it from anywhere else in our program, like in other functions. Since we can call the function for its purpose whenever and wherever we want in code, they allow us to organize our code more effectively and avoid repeating it. This means we can easily change our code later and read our program better. Now, let's go to the P5 editor and see what we can do with functions. Now I have code for the scores of 3 classes, English, Maths and Science, and the averages for each. So as you can see, we have a whole 31 lines of code, which is quite a lot just to calculate the average of 3 different classes. And as you can see, when we hit play, we have the average of English, Math and then Science out printed in the console one by one. So, with functions, we can make it so we can just have the code to calculate the average once, and then we can call the function again and again and again for 3 different results for each class: Maths, English and Science. So, to do this, I'm going to use the function keyword, and I'm going to make the function called average. And in here, we can pretty much write any fake variable name. For example, we're going to make it score array. And then we're going to open our curly brackets, and inside them, write the code to calculate a function. Since we've already written it here, we can actually copy and paste it. But this was for English, so we're going to have to change our variable names a bit so they can be a bit more descriptive. So maybe instead of English scores, well, we have to have it match our input variable name. It's called score array. And again. So that means no matter what kind of array is passed through here, we can calculate the average of the numbers inside. As you can see, we summed up everything inside our array and then divided it by the number of items in the array. Then, as functions have output, we can use a return statement to return the average we get. Now that we have the average function that only takes 8 lines, we can actually remove the individual piece of code for English, Math and Science averages. Then, we can simply write variables and call the average function to assign the average to these variables that we make. So we can add e-average, English average, and we're going to feed in the English scores as score array. And obviously the average output will be sent to e-average. Then we'll have m-average. which will be the math average, average of the math scores. And finally, S average, our science average, where we will call the average function on our science scores. And so let's hit play again and see if our console returns the same thing we did before as when we did it manually. Looks like we did something wrong. Right. So we can't name a variable the same name as a function as we learned here. So we'll just, for now, call it score average. We'll hit play, and we'll get the same values as we did before.